Welcome to Postwave. You're here with Eric and Trevor. Today we're talking about dreams.
So Eric, I know you've been recording your dreams quite assiduously for the last how long?
About 2 years.
Yeah. Do you feel like that's changed the nature of the dreams themselves?
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Yes. I notice there's recurring themes that come out um, in my dreams, and some of them are kind of understandable. Some of them are esoteric. But I've noticed that by the act of chronicling my dreams, there's a sort of a feedback loop where certain things just kind of stick. And I think that a lot of what that is I the topic sticks in my mind because I'm recalling it intentionally by writing down the dream.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, it's interesting. It's like the most common elements become more common.
Yeah. Like, for example, childhood friends has been one of the biggest themes, but specifically, one childhood friend out of a small group that we hung out since preschool up, kind of splitting apart into high school. Just one of them, my friend Dylan Pontrello, for some reason he comes up half a dozen times in the course of those 2 years of
Wow.
writing.
Yeah, I guess. Yeah, I don't have like childhood friends show up a lot, but I guess I do have like people mixed from different, like from college and high school that wouldn't have ever met, and it's just normal, that kind of thing.
Sure. Yeah, so here's a kind of a point to mention when we're talking about dreams. There's kind of two sides of interest. One is, oh, look how unlike waking life this is. How strange, how wonderful, how weird this is,
Mm-hmm.
right? And you'll often hear this when people recount their dreams. They'll eyes will spark and say, "But it was," and then it turned into that, and it's very innocent. But the other side is, to me, so remarkable how things stay the same within my dreams. The things that are consistent, the things that recur, the themes. That's what interests me the most.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, you can. It definitely gives you a window into what like the major components of your psyche are.
Yes, it does. And we'll go into later how I think that the act of paying attention and writing down my dreams has allowed me to come to terms with some hidden facets about my personality and who I am that I would never have accepted otherwise.
Mm-hmm. It's really interesting. Yeah, I don't know if I can say that I've ever had any deep revelations about myself from my dreams. Although I've never really. I think I've toyed maybe once or twice with writing them down, and I never keep it up for long because inevitably there's something embarrassing that I want to write down, even though I'm not going to show
Right?
anyone. But
and that's part of the challenge. And for me, the great part of the reward is writing down everything, even the embarrassing parts, even the horrifying
yeah,
parts.
yeah. I guess one good thing for me is since I stopped smoking weed like 3 months ago, I've
Mm.
been having dreams almost every night, and way
Wow,
more vivid. I mean, because if you go to bed high, basically you don't remember your dreams. You don't have dreams.
I've heard that.
Yeah, and so it's been like a overall a nice change. you know, you get the
Mm.
occasional like kind of terrifying one, but um, I'm able to deal with them a lot better than I was as a kid or whatever.
Yeah, did you have a lot of nightmares when you were a kid?
uh, I don't know. I don't know what the normal amount is to have. I had a couple recurring ones. So like well, first of all, I've always had sleep paralysis, and I definitely had that as a kid, but I didn't know what it was.
Mm.
And I just remember it feeling like obviously I couldn't move, and then there was just like this wind rushing over me, and like this feeling of terror, and like there was like roaring in my ears and stuff.
Mm, yeah.
Uh, yeah, and I thought it was some like ghost or something like haunting me, or just
Mm.
like uh, which is how people described it like before they knew what it was, like
Hmm.
a spirit like sitting on your chest or something. Um,
Yeah.
so I had those. I also, since I was super into dinosaurs as a kid, I learned very early on that the way they went extinct was that an asteroid hit the Earth, and so and we had like this dinosaur documentary that I watched. I don't know, some stupid number of times, where at the end, the asteroid hits the Earth, and before like the days before, like there's like a basically like unexpected meteor shower in the sky,
Hmm.
and then the actual asteroid hits, and there's like a huge wave of like dust, and it's like coming towards them,
Mm.
uh and so like I'd be like out in the schoolyard or whatever. I think like up through elementary school, and if there was ever like a plane flying over, which happened fairly often,
Hmm.
like it would always make me nervous because I thought it was like like
Oh.
the blast front of the asteroid impact like about to commit us.
Wow. What a mantle to bear.
Yeah. And so that was kind of a recurring nightmare in like various forms. Asteroid
Mm.
impact.
Wow.
And then like there was one where I was just out in my house at night, and out of this one like wall, ghosts started coming out and stuff, and it's
Hmm.
pretty freaky. And yeah, I mean a lot of people probably have dreams like that. And I feel
Hmm.
like I'm just going on and on, but I'm curious, do you have any like what's the earliest dream you can remember?
Oh gosh. I feel like if I were to ponder that for a day or hours or something, I could probably find an early one. Of course, you know how hard it is to recall dreams, especially ones that happened a long time ago.
Yeah. Yeah.
Dream memory is so strange. Um, have you ever had the experience of just being blindsided by a random recollection that came out of nowhere, but as it comes is a complete landscape that you can pinpoint as being a dream that you had many, many years ago?
Maybe, yeah, like once or twice, or you can't remember whether it was a dream or whether it actually happened, that kind of thing.
Yep.
Yeah.
Yeah, that was. I had that actually one of the first times that I did yoga at the end, where you're in the Shavasana pose, which is just resting on your back. I experienced falling into a state of just this memory came to me, and I knew it was a dream that I had had when I was a kid.
Hmm. Wow. Do you remember what the dream was?
Unfortunately, not. It's floating around in there somewhere.
Hmm.
So, as I understand how memory works, you have these associations that form within your brain, like neurons that connect, and memories that are well maintained that you keep coming back to have many connections backing them up, many ways in which they relate to other things inside your brain. But as they become less and less relevant, they may have no connections or very few connections to the point where they're basically non-existent.
Yeah, yeah,
But then
yeah,
some small unusual catalyst will cause that link to reoccur, and then suddenly there's the whole thing right there for you.
yeah, yeah. I was looking into how Neuralink is going to affect our relationship with our dreams earlier,
Hmm.
and we already have a pretty coarse way to reconstruct what someone's seeing from their visual cortex. Like
Hmm.
someone could be watching a movie and be in a fMRI machine, and they can have uh, on the screen like a playback of what they're seeing, more or less. And even though the fMRI is only in a resolution of like 1 second to 2 seconds, they can get like an actual like movie frame rate somehow.
Wow.
I think I'll put a link to it, and this is from like 2011, I think, at UC Berkeley.
Jeez.
So I'm sure it's better now. But it's pretty crazy. And the other weird thing is like faces. Like it does better with faces than it does with other like text and stuff, like other objects.
Hmm. Interesting.
Yeah. And they're also using neural networks now. This is like a more recent thing. But they were able to have a neural network reconstruct what someone was seeing from their from brain readings, I think.
Wow.
And that's a pretty crazy animation because it like has the picture on the left side, and then on the right side it's like this evolving like kind of deep dream looking thing,
Huh.
and it ends up looking like you can tell it's like kind of the shape. A lot of them don't really look like much,
Creepy.
but it's like, yeah, it's like kind of the shape, and it has like an impression of what it is. Yeah, it's pretty it's pretty crazy.
Wow. It's fascinating. It's kind of terrifying as
Yeah,
well.
yeah, yeah. I feel like it's like slowly waking up or something.
Or maybe it's dreaming.
Yeah. Yeah, something else I've noticed recently, I had a pretty bad bout with poison ivy over the course of like 6 weeks because I just kept getting it.
Nice.
I was working in the yard, but that did lead to some like pretty serious sleep deprivation, and I found that I had some of the most vivid dreams that I've ever had.
Wow, that's fascinating.
Yeah, which was really interesting.
Hmm.
Like, and
I,
some, and if you have like a night of, kind of not really falling asleep, like if you have a dream, you could definitely tell that you slept, and you weren't just like awake. But one of them was I was in the house that I lived in high school, my mom's house, and I was in the kitchen talking to this AI researcher, Ben Gertzel, who I'm like really really interested in. He's doing like kind of the cognitive architecture AGI stuff in like an open source way, but the whole dream was just him telling me it's gonna be okay. Like if you don't accomplish anything, it's gonna be okay. It's like it was pretty wild.
That's kind of touching.
Yeah, no, it was moving.
Dreams can be a way, I think, to work through emotional things.
Yeah, like not necessarily conflicts, but it could be a way to sort things out.
Yeah. Let me share a little bit of a dream from my dream journal. Yeah, so there's this little pastiche that presented itself to me on October 27 of 2019. Last night I dreamt there was a cat and a rabbit. The cat and the rabbit just want to be friends with each other, but they don't know how to show it. The rabbit bounces purposefully up to the cat. The cat snarls and bites playfully at the rabbit. The rabbit thinks maybe the cat doesn't want to be friends with it. Not sure what to think. It assumes the worst and bites the cat on the nose. The cat is taken aback. He was only trying to be friendly. Wary, the two engage again, and are again rebuffed by the other's teeth and claws. Watching, I see that both only want connection. Individually, I approach them, first the cat and then the rabbit. I approach softly, cautiously, showing only smooth surfaces, no claws, nor teeth, nor edges of any kind. I see that they wax at my approaching touch, reaching out and longing for it, tender contact. But now they bite and scratch at my outstretched hand, unsure if it's raised in malice or friendship. Timidly, with demure bearing, wanting but not believing. I make myself hold calm at the pain and ignore its sharp bite, harder than playful, yet a warning, but not so hard as to draw blood. It's not unendurable, this pain. I stroke their flank for as long as they can endure, then let them go to claim the space that they need.
Wow. So do you think the cat and the rabbit represent a part of two different parts of yourself, or is it two people you know, or is it neither of those things?
I would hesitate to say a specific meaning to draw it to any particular person. Certainly, these are aspects of myself, but there are also archetypes that I've seen in my life externally as well.
Mm-hmm. Like where?
Friends, family, the way they interact, even in just acquaintances and strangers, built-in postures that people carry around that themselves carry attitudes and defensiveness against other people,
Mm-hmm.
but also a longing for connection.
That is the kind of thing you would notice.
It's the kind of thing a part of me notices clearly, because it's there in my dream. But it's I think chronicling the dreams that has allowed me to notice them consciously.
So do cats and rabbits show up a lot in your other dreams?
Those are not necessarily recurring themes. Although weirdly, and this may be an artifact of writing down my dreams, but I just noticed that there's, I think, 3 occurrences over those 2 years that I was writing down my dreams in which there's like 2 mammals that I like holding or are interacting with each other in front of me.
Mm-hmm. Interesting.
I did have rabbits growing up as a kid, so
Yeah.
I've definitely a recurring dream that I have every once in a while is that my rabbit is still alive.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I guess I don't really get animals showing up a whole lot in my dreams.
Yeah, so going back to your poison ivy giving you vivid dreams, that I think is a well-documented effect where if you wake yourself up at the peak of a REM cycle, then go right back to sleep after 10, 15 minutes, that will give you much more vivid dreams.
Yeah. Yeah, that checks out. Yeah. Another, I forget if I told you about this, but another one I had, which was kind of the last vivid one I had before I was actually able to start getting good sleep again. And actually, I think it might have been the night before my 25th birthday on September 26th. I had this very vivid dream that I was with my girlfriend Maddie and one of her other friends, and they were both like dressed up kind of fancy, and there were other people walking around in like these bizarre, like really fancy outfits, but like modern fashion, like weird shapes and stuff.
Ah.
And we were like walking around, and one by one, all these girls I had had crushes on, like throughout my entire life, started like joining us. They were just like surrounding me in this like pod, also being dressed up really nice. And eventually, my dad was there too, and like another kid from high school who I've kind of like a random kid from band who like I didn't know that well. He was like pretty good at clarinet, but kind of awkward. He was like a year younger than me, and and at that point we got a bunch of balloons and all got into like a pod, and like everyone was hanging on to each other and like floated up into the sky.
Nice.
Which was definitely inspired by this thing David Blaine did recently called, I think it was called Ascension, where he did exactly that, like floated up on a bunch of like colorful balloons in the sky and then skydived when he got to like 25,000 feet.
Cool.
Yeah. But then it was, it was a great dream up until then, but then my dad like slipped down and was like hanging onto my leg, like almost falling off, and then he fell off and like very graphically broke his leg when he hit the ground.
Uh-huh.
It's like yikes. And then like I tried to steer us into like some grass to land, but we landed on asphalt instead, and that's when I woke up.
Yeah, wow. I found that happens for me as well when you have like everything going great sometimes, and then you're still aware. If it's particularly vivid, then it's kind of like something has to happen, right, to keep the story interesting.
Maybe so. Yeah, or like it gets to the good part where we want it to keep going. A lot of times it's sexual, and then the dream just stops.
Which, oddly enough, has led me to appreciate the anticipation elements of those sexual fantasies more than the Congress part.
Yeah, because sometimes it just doesn't feel like there's just no like.
Yeah, I mean,
like
it's and honestly, I think there's something I can learn from that about like life,
Yeah.
I think there's definitely something to it, that it's the anticipation that lends it, and not just the anticipation, but all the little things, the intimacies, the tenderness. I think that to me holds a greater appeal than any particular act could ever.
Yeah. I mean, did you have like recurring dreams about your crushes growing up?
Oh yeah, definitely.
Yeah.
Like number one, well, maybe among the top recurring dreams that I would ever have.
Yeah, mine were never sexual. I think that it was just like, oh, I'm like dating this person, and like this is amazing. Like I thought this would never happen.
Yeah, dreaming and remembering my dreams has led me to be aware, I think, on some instances, of crushes or attractions that I've felt but hadn't accepted or recognized in my waking life. Also, one thing that is a huge recurring theme for me is these really intricate and, to me, what feel like really real, awkward, uncomfortable, and yet touching relationships with people who I admire. If you'd like, I can read a little sample that shows this. Jumping in halfway through a paragraph here. I like her a lot, and I feel a strong attraction toward her. Part of this attraction is certainly that she shares the same attraction for me. I know that she and I would like nothing better than to be together, and this is in itself wildly attractive. Not knowing for sure how to make this come about, I begin coming on strong, expressing the way I feel in myriad little ways as I interact with her. Everything I say has subtle undertone of attraction, suggestion. I want to be close to her, and I want to show it. I want to make it happen. My eyes are intent upon her like a lamp, looking in her direction always, whenever possible. My face is contorted into a perpetual grin, goofy. It's meant to be endearing. It's unconscious. I can't stop it. My muscles seem a bit strained from holding this face all the time. As I recognize this, I try to make myself stop forcing it, but it seems to be beyond my control. I begin to wonder if my expression is conveying what I want it to. I don't think it is. How could it convey anything other than strained tension? And that's not the version of me she found attractive in the first place.
That reminds me of Infinite Jest, the facial expression thing.
Right, yeah, in the first chapter where
Yeah.
he's trying to communicate and horribly failing.
Yeah, I guess I don't know. I forget if facial expression comes into it or not.
Yeah, it definitely does.
Yeah. Was that dream after you'd read it, or?
Definitely, yeah.
Yeah.
This was November of 2019. So I should mention, now that I've read a couple samples from my dream journal, you may have noticed that the writing style is not exactly matter of fact. It's a little bit florid or just colorful. And to me, that is my attempt to convey the sensations of the dream rather than simply reporting the sequence of events.
Yeah. No, I mean, I really like the way you write them out. Like it's pretty eloquent, and I know it's
Thanks.
yeah. No, it's fun to listen to.
Good.
Yeah.
I'm glad.
Yeah. I just have a lot of memories of my sister telling me her dreams when we were kids, and they would just go on forever and ever, and like just a bunch of like unrelated things.
Yeah.
I'd maybe be more interested in them now that I kind of know how dreams work and like what you know. But I just remember it being like just unending stream of unrelated things.
Yeah, definitely there's ways to convey dreams that are interesting and ways that some people can even have a violent reaction against wanting to hear it.
Yeah.
I remember when I had just started writing down my dreams, coming down and seeing my grandmother in the morning and saying, "Oh, I just had a dream," and then she's like, "Great, but don't tell me about it."
Had you told her about other dreams before?
I may have done once or twice.
Yeah. Oh, so going back to when I asked you what your earliest dream memory was,
Yeah.
I have a couple memories of dreams that were definitely nightmares, but it was this indescribable geometric space, not like psychedelic, but kind of like I was in some kind of cave or something with these bizarrely shaped walls, and there was just this incredible feeling of terror.
Wow.
I think that's probably my earliest dream memory. And it's like a very brief flash that I remember, but I don't know. I've always wondered if other people have memories like that.
Interesting. I have a vivid memory of a fever dream that I would have recurringly. Every time I was very sick as a child, I would have a very particular image.
What was that?
uh, it was a sensation above all else, but it manifested to me as a couple different ways to look at it. One is the sensation of rubbing your finger along scotch tape. And at first it was like smooth scotch tape, just perfectly laid out flat.
Mm-hmm.
And every once in a while, oh, there's a little bump where it didn't get laid out right. And you know when there's like the little bump that comes up.
Mm-hmm.
And it was like, oh no, that's not good. But okay, it's back to smooth again, so I guess we're all good. It's smooth, so how could it be anything else but smooth? And then, oh, there's a couple little bumps. Oh, that's not good. And then it would dramatically snowball into like a lot of bumps, and then just this horrible, chaotic, unpleasant sensation of as if you had taken a bunch of scotch tape and balled it up into a huge messy ball, and you're like messing with it. And then that was emblematic of pure madness, pure chaos. I would be subsumed in madness, and I would know nothing else until eventually that sensation stopped, and then it was just back to the scotch tape again. The smooth.
Wow.
And then
when
that
did you
cycle
start
would
having
repeat.
those dreams?
Oh, when I was fairly little. I can't put a year on it, but it was any time that I had a fever dream. Recounting that sensation right now actually like kind of makes me dissociate a little bit.
Yeah. Yeah, I can't really remember any fever dreams that I've had. I remember I definitely had some this one time I was at my grandparents' house in Ohio for Christmas, and like everyone got sick.
Hmm.
I think that was in high school. Maybe my senior year of high school.
So Trevor,
Yeah.
have you ever had a dream in which you did psychedelics and then had the experience of being on psychedelics?
I know I've definitely had yeah, I know I've had a couple of dreams where I like had kind of an acid flashback. I can't really remember them that well. I do remember I had one dream where I was doing shrooms with my mom in Boulder.
Interesting.
Yeah, I don't remember a whole lot of that, but it's definitely happened. How about you?
Oh yeah, many times. And every time it feels viscerally like an acid trip. And in fact, as you said, it feels to me probably like it is an acid flashback. For those of you who don't know, acid has this effect that after you've taken it at random points, you may experience suddenly the sensation of being on acid for a short amount of time with no warning.
Yeah, although it can be triggered by certain things. I mean, like especially like smoking weed.
Definitely.
Can
And I think that I don't have anything to back this up. Maybe there's a study somewhere. I keep saying that that talks about this, but maybe the interaction between the substance and the DMT, which is released in your brain when you dream.
Have you heard the Terrence McKenna story about smoking DMT while on acid?
No.
Yeah, he said he used to do that because it would make the DMT trip last longer. And apparently one time this lady came into his apartment on accident right, right during the DMT trip, and he opened his eyes, and he said that the trip just kind of like spilled into the room, and he started like speaking this kind of glossolalia thing at
Wow.
her. Yeah.
Imagine being that woman. Um, so I did actually write down at least one of my acid flashbacks while dreaming.
Mm-hmm.
So I dreamed I had taken a large amount of acid. I saw the world in bright colors, colors that were knitted from my perception. I saw that the entire world was within my vision, and in this I saw the fabric of my own soul. The acid is too strong. Some friends of mine go off gallivanting, but I cannot follow. I lay down exactly where I am. My head rests at the foot of a tree. I am happy. All is well. I see that everything is made out of love. I love my friends. I love this tree. I love myself. I am love.
Wow, that's beautiful. Damn. Do you feel like there was a certain trip that was calling back to?
No, and that's one of the interesting things is each time it's not one particular experience that's being recreated. It's an entirely new experience, but it has that same undeniable quality of being the psychedelic.
Mm-hmm.
I had one other, just because I like reading my dreams.
Mm-hmm.
One other that is very much the sensation of being on psychedelics, but in the dream that wasn't what was happening. So in the dream there was like this big, like really tense battle that I was like a soldier fighting in, like on these lawns across two houses, and then we finally win. And then it says, "And now the battle is won, and all there is silence, calmness, as gentle night wind caresses the well-trimmed lawn and blooming bushes. Sweet fragrance fills the air. A matronly figure appears, an older, well-worn woman, short in stature, yet large in spirit. She walks among the surviving victors and, with her presence, encourages us to invite love into our hearts. I step outside and feel the warm air, the soil in between my toes. I am suddenly overwhelmed with immense gratitude. Everything around me is alive, the trees, the plants, the soil, everything breathes and is ecstatic just to be. The colors are intense, textured patterns shifting to geometric figures, espousing the beauty of all things. I am aware of each flower, each blade of grass, individually and simultaneously, its life force, its presence, phallic in its forceful certainty, each protrusion melding into one continuous pattern, like waves on the ocean or arabesque spirals on a Persian rug. Suddenly, I am moved to tears. It is too much and too beautiful. The woman passes by and encourages me to let it all out. I begin to weep helplessly at the beauty and splendor, the crudeness of human violence, and yet the beauty of it still, that there should be this, even afterward.
Man. Wow.
So yeah, again, just that sensation of being on psychedelics, although in the dream there that wasn't what was happening, but still it was undeniably that sensation.
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah, man, the the seeing all the detail and just being overwhelmed by it kind of thing. I was definitely thinking about that the last time I did acid, and like feeling everything, and just within your own body, like how many billions of neurons you have, and what it would be like to actually feel every one of those all at once.
Wow.
This is kind of a crazy thought.
Yeah.
Because in some sense, like that is, I mean, if you've, even if you're just counting the neurons in your brain, and I know there's like you only use whatever it is, 20% of your brain or something.
Yeah, but I think that's bullshit.
Yeah, especially when you're on psychedelics, probably.
Weirdly enough, what I've heard is that the amount of activity in your brain decreases when you're on psychedelics.
Well, I think it's the there's a certain part of your brain that I know decreases. That gets kind of default mode network is I think what it's called.
Okay.
Yeah. But that might be what allows different parts of your brain to communicate that wouldn't be able to communicate otherwise.
Yeah, definitely. That makes sense.
Yeah, I think the most intense acid flashback I've ever had was the first time I did Whippets in Manchester.
Christ.
And this was I think only a few months after I had taken acid for the first time, but I got the same feeling of kind of forgetting where I was and who I was with, and trying to think intently about like what stage of my life I was in, and imagining back all the way through like college and high school, and having moved to Texas from California and all that stuff, and here I was sitting with these people in a room in England, and it was like, wait, who are these people again? How did I get here?
Wow, the disorientation.
Yeah, disorientation. And just the kind of being able to see the whole scope of your life all at once kind of thing.
Wow. Like those contortionist lyrics from Intrinsic. At the edge of existence, I watch my whole life again.
Wow. on a maybe only somewhat related note, I've kind of decided that my next big project is going to be like a concept album.
Cool.
Like I really want to make it happen, even if it's like completely instrumental. But I really want to base it on the whole eternalism, time is a consciousness is a loop thing.
Okay, wow, fascinating.
Yeah. But I don't want to do the album like it's a loop, or like you can play the album backwards or whatever. Yeah. But what I want to do is slow all the tracks way down and then layer them on top of each other, and then treat that as like a sound sculpture that I can like just kind of carve away pieces of, and maybe like transpose stuff, and have it be kind of a soundscapey thing, but like everything all at once in some way.
Interesting. Cool. Just like a really thick texture.
Yeah, like it would be just at the end, kind of like a outro soundscapey, like
okay,
long thing.
I like it. Yeah. Neat. Yeah. Now I want to hear it.
Yeah, me too. Gotta write all the songs first.
Yeah.
Yeah. If you're enjoying the episode so far, please consider subscribing to us on whatever platform you're on right now. You can also go follow us on Instagram or Facebook, or tell your friends about us. Anything helps. You can also go check out our website at postwavepodcast.com.
esoteric, do you think that there's any meaningful distinction in the context of existing between dreaming and being awake?
I think so. I mean, because I mean, you could take the consciousness is everything. Everything is made of consciousness. That's all we can know for sure thing.
Mm-hmm.
But the parts of our lives that aren't dreaming seem to have continuity. Like objects persist and people persist and events have consequences that go into the next time you're awake. Whereas dreams, that doesn't really happen,
That's so
except for with rare exceptions.
that's so fascinating, and especially because if you look at EEG of your brain while you're dreaming, it has a very steady rhythmic pattern to it, very predictable and continuous. And when you're awake, the pattern becomes unpredictable and random.
That's interesting. I wonder if that has anything to do with the dreams are your brain making a sense of things idea, because it's like it's putting things together in the order that makes most sense to it.
Hmm. I mean, definitely that is something that happens. But I would be curious to see how making a rhythmic pulse would induce that sort of organizing principle.
Yeah, I mean, I'm talking to my butt. I don't know anything about how brain readings actually map onto
So
experiences.
so I'm going somewhere with this, and it definitely relates to dreaming. But I'm curious, Trevor, how do you feel about the statement that all of existence is stemming from ideas?
Huh. That's it's interesting. What do you mean by that? Slash, what do you mean by ideas?
Uh-huh. um, so the ideological, the landscape of things that are only ideas, as opposed to having any physical form whatsoever. Um, Perception is an idea. The concept of what a tomato is an idea. So then the statement would be that that sort of existence is preeminent, or else entirely necessary in order to have any sort of tangible existence.
Huh. Yeah, I mean, I take issue with the word existence because I think if we weren't here being conscious, there would still be something that exists, even though we couldn't prove it.
Well,
But
what would that be if not consciousness?
well, it would be like the quantum wave function of the universe or whatever.
Which, okay, interesting. Yeah, and this is just kind of plumbing to see where we each stand. For me, there is no possible way that that quantum waveform could be anything but consciousness. But I think that's a debate for another time.
Yeah.
But okay, so let me just tell you where I'm coming from then. I do have the conviction that the ideological is the source of existence. You can't have anything that doesn't first exist as an idea, and it definitely needs a physical form in order to be a present actual object. But that it's the ideas that shape the forms that the world makes, as much as vice versa.
Mm-hmm. Well, I mean, but this is all from our point of perception,
Yeah,
which I feel like
exactly. That's exactly the point.
but I feel like that's a very biased
Mm.
way to look at things.
Well,
because it assumes that the fluke of our biology is has something uh
Hmm.
very deep to do with the way the universe is constructed
I actually,
ontologically.
sorry to interrupt, but uh, yeah, definitely. If you were to assume that about our particular form of perception as biological entities, but what I meant was that it has the bias of coming from a position of perception, which, as we've talked about, you can't remove the perceiver from the situation. So whatever form that perception takes, whether it's a meatbag human or something else that could conceivably conceive, that still is a necessary facet of existence.
Yeah, well, I think it's a necessary facet of the reality we're perceiving, but and that definitely doesn't exist outside of what we're perceiving.
What doesn't exist?
I well, the like that door over there, like there's not.
That it's not a door unless you see it as being a door?
Well, yeah, like the it's not. I mean, it's like kind of the whole atoms are mostly empty space, and uh, it's all just these infinitesimally small quarks and electrons buzzing around and like interacting in this very complicated way. And those themselves are composed of some oscillations in quantum fields,
Mm,
and it's all like wave functions basically is
sure.
how I think about it.
I think that's a really valid way to look at the world.
Yeah, but I just think it's putting too much stock in the human brain as being fundamental to what the universe is. Part of me does believe that consciousness is something fundamental about the universe. Like it could be that we're tapping into some kind of field, or that everything is slightly conscious or something like that. But I don't think it has anything to do with whether things exist or not.
Hmm. So I agree that there's nothing fundamental about the structure of the human brain to the fundamental nature of existence. But at the same time, I don't think that there's any correlation specifically between the human brain and consciousness. I think that consciousness can be reflected in infinite different forms, of which we are just one.
Huh? But you said they have nothing to do with each other.
Well, the only thing that they have to do with each other is that the human form is one of those infinite forms that reflects consciousness.
Right. Yeah. I don't think it's yeah, the human brain and animal brains in general, I don't think are the only thing
Definitely not.
that. Yeah.
Yeah, I agree 100%.
Yeah.
But okay, so bringing it back, despite the fact that we may not agree on all of the verbiage there, um, if you take the stance that all existence must first or primarily exist as the idea, then you can say that dreaming is, on a fundamental level, the same thing as what we do when we're awake. It's just a slightly different form of it.
Yeah. Yeah. I guess I see what you're saying. Although I still take issue with the word idea because that seems to imply that there's like a brain thinking the idea. But
Yeah,
uh,
just the language of it. And
yeah.
by idea, I guess I mean ideological landscape.
And yeah. And if something like the simulation argument is true, then that would definitely seem to make dreams and reality basically the same, have the same level of metaphysical significance or whatever.
Yeah.
Yeah.
um, it's really kind of dizzying to think about because this is one of those ideas that at first I personally dismiss as nah, you, you don't dream reality into existence. And then the more I thought about it, the less I could actually prove that.
Yeah.
you know,
Yeah.
until it finally starts to feel like maybe it's true. And then when you feel that, it's like the world is falling out from under your feet. Everything you knew
Yeah.
as being indelible truth is just a notion.
Yeah. Do you ever listen to Bill Hicks?
No.
He's a comedian. And the band Tool uh used a clip from one of his routines in the intro to their song Third Eye, which is like one of my favorite Tool songs ever. But it's a really famous bit, and we'll link to it. But see if I can. So the whole bit is, you always hear people on the news. You always hear about people, getting high on acid and jumping out buildings, thinking they can fly. But where are all the good acid stories? Like, there's a lot of those too. Today, a young man on acid realized that all matter is just energy condensed to a single slow vibration. There's no such thing as death. Life is just a dream, and we're the imagination of ourselves. Here's Tom with the weather.
Yes, I have heard this. Actually,
I got through
it's
it.
brilliant.
Yeah, yeah. Also, I think earlier, it's like, it's not because they did acid, it's because they're stupid. Like, I don't think I can fly.
Yeah.
It's like good riddance.
Brilliant.
Yeah. Yeah. He was from Austin. Like, he got his start here. I like this comedy club. It's just a couple blocks away from where my mom's old house is.
That's really cool.
So, how many experiences have you had with lucid dreaming?
I intended to get into lucid dreaming toward the end of high school and in college as well. I read a book about lucid dreaming. I believe it was titled Lucid Dreaming. I'll link to it in the doobly-doo. And I would go through periods where I would attempt and I would do all the things that they said so that you could remember your dreams and then take control of them when you realized them. But I never really got there. I would have what are called false awakenings, which goes beyond just the experience of dreaming that you wake up, which is definitely a big part of it. But for me, it would go something like this. I'd be dreaming about something, and I'd do the reality check where you have this ingrained habit that you do during the day when in waking life, where you look at your hands, for example, and see how many fingers do you have, and if it's not 5, then you're dreaming, or if you can stick your thumb through your palm, then you're dreaming. And then if you recognize that, if you do that habit in your dream and you recognize that, then there's this kind of like, holy shit, I am dreaming. And for me, every time that would happen, I would go on overdrive and everything would suddenly pop into really intense detail. However, it was really unstable, and furthermore, it felt like there was some entity that was somewhere within me that was actively doing everything it could to suppress me being in a lucid dream. Where it felt like, for example, I'm in the bathroom and I'm looking around and there's several digital clocks and they all have slightly different times, and I'm looking at the numerals and hang on. Those numerals are not the normal numerals. Those are weird shapes, and when I look away and when I look back, they're different. I am definitely dreaming. and I'd be like, oh shit, and adrenaline rush, and then there's this force that's like, well, I can't stop you from lucid dreaming right now, but I'm going to make everything really creepy, really, really creepy, so that you won't want to be here anymore. And then like all of everything pops into horrible detail, and like the walls turn kind of green, and like everything's just like as if under a fluorescent light bulb and malignant, until the point where I wake up, or more normally dream that I wake up.
Wow. Yeah. I've never made a concerted effort to like get good at lucid dreaming. Yeah, it happens very little, but I always think about it.
It seems like a really
Yeah,
remarkable thing to be able to do.
yeah. Part of the appeal of it is you just have so much more time,
Mm.
like to just exist
Yeah,
and do things.
it's like in Inception. We need to go deeper. That's what she said.
We
Were those Death Grip albums, or the Death Grip side project lyrics?
uh
I'm going so far into
wow.
you.
Yeah, you're going so far into me too.
I don't know what other people do.
I'm going so far into you.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah, we'll put a link to that song in the doobly.
Of course. I've heard that lucid dreaming can be a really effectual means of practicing your instrument effectively.
Oh, really? That's interesting.
Yeah.
Yeah, yeah. That's something we haven't talked about is like music, like making music in dreams. I feel like I've had relatively few of those. I have had some like ballet piano stress dreams at least a couple times.
Of course.
um, I've had a lot of other like stress, like music stress related dreams, but
Mm.
yeah, that's interesting. I didn't know people. Is that specifically with lucid dreaming?
Yeah,
Practicing
yeah,
dreams?
yeah. If you practice in dreams, I believe this was in the book that I was reading that I'll link to, that you have like they were able to measure significant increase in like how well the person played the piece after having lucid dream practiced.
Yeah, I mean, you could. I mean, I know, like mental practice is a thing, just like away from your
Mm.
instrument.
I mean, for me, that's a major part of how I practice. It's not what happens when you're on the instrument. It's you practice enough so that it's in your mind, and then your mind is working on it even when you're doing other stuff.
Yeah, yeah, especially with trying to memorize things.
So, have you ever written any musical ideas that you got when you were dreaming?
No, I don't think I have.
I've tried, and oftentimes I'll find that when I actually remember the musical idea when I wake up, which is really hard, it's usually like not great.
Yeah,
But when you're dreaming, it just feels so good.
yeah. Well, actually, I don't know if this counts, but one of my more recent dreams, I was at a concert that was either it was kind of like Death Grips and or Mars Volta at the same time, also at the same time as the Miro Quartet, which is this really good like string quartet in town.
Mm.
And there was a long preamble, like we were getting tickets and stuff, but I was there uh, with my girlfriend Maddie and like my one of my biggest crushes from school.
Mm. Recurring theme.
Yeah, yeah. And after that there was this big parade that I was organizing somehow, and it was like a performance art thing, and I had all these like found object like trash things that I was using to perform on.
Okay.
Yeah, I don't know. That kind of counts.
Cool. Yeah. I actually did have the first piece of music that I wrote in college, that viola solo that I titled "Bleed." The first idea that I had for that piece, I got just as I was falling asleep, or just after I'd fallen asleep, and then I made myself wake up and write it down.
Mm-hmm.
And actually, I think that part turned out pretty well.
That's cool. Yeah, I've noticed more and more recently, uh, how I can be aware if I'm falling asleep just from how my thoughts kind of go on a weird tangent
Hmm.
that doesn't really make sense all of a sudden,
Yeah.
and it's just a tangent off of a tangent. If I suddenly wake up a little more like, wait, what the hell was I thinking about? It didn't make any sense at all.
Yeah.
And a lot of, I mean, I guess this hasn't happened recently, but a lot of times that could like spiral into a nightmare if it like goes off on a wrong path.
Mm-hmm.
Um,
What's the scariest thing you've ever dreamed?
oh gosh, I don't know. I mean, all the asteroid dreams are pretty scary.
Hmm.
I remember there was this other dream where I was in I don't know, I was in like middle school or something, or elementary school, and I was like, there was like a huge semi truck coming down our street, and I was in the street and I couldn't move.
Uh-huh.
That was pretty scary.
Hmm.
I mean, the dream with my dad and the falling from the balloons thing was pretty scary, just because it was in such like vivid detail. I wasn't like terrified or anything. It was like, Jesus Christ.
Yeah.
Like, what just happened?
Yeah, I've definitely had the really vivid, horrible, visual, visceral, like gore things happen in my dream as well.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. And actually, if I think about it, and this had occurred to me before, I didn't mention it. So my dad recently went to this like socially distanced music festival, with his girlfriend,
Mm-hmm.
and ended up being less socially distanced than they planned on,
Uh-huh.
because they saw a bunch of people they knew and whatever. And so like it was right before my birthday, so we couldn't hang out until last week. And when they when they got back like the day after, it was like, yeah, now we're both not feeling great. And I was like, oh shit. So I think it was definitely like worrying about my dad.
Yeah.
Like related to that.
Influences throughout your day definitely influence your dreams a lot.
Yeah.
I found it doesn't take much. It takes just like a word or a name to bring something into my dreams.
How often do you have like a situation where something outside, like a sound or something, makes its way into your dream somehow?
It's hard to say because unless it actually wakes me up, I don't know that that's where it came from.
Yeah.
But definitely it will happen from time to time.
Yeah, I know it's happened to me a few times, but I can't really remember. Probably with like my alarm clock going off or something
Mm-hmm.
cliche like that.
I had one dream a year or two ago where I thought that was what was happening, because it was this really visceral feeling of like sound of this voice, and it was just going like, oh God, oh please stop, oh make it stop, oh God, please Lucas, make it stop. And it was so horrifying that I woke up and I was listening and listening, but there's nowhere that could have been coming from.
Mm-hmm. Wow.
I would say that maybe the scariest thing I've ever dreamed was that I was a ghost.
Did you know how you died?
No, I was in the house I grew up in, and I was just kind of milling about, and I think I was like in the bathroom, but the door was open, and I went over and looked out, and I looked across the hallway, and there's my mom, and she's looking at me in this really kind of strange way. And the moment that she sees me, I feel my existence rapidly in a split second hurtling towards non-existence, and it's this really like intense series of uh, flashing, complicated visuals that dramatically approached lower and lower fidelity, as if the image is becoming compressed and compressed, and that was what I was, and that if I reach the 0 point, then I stop existing. And so, I hid myself, and then I'm like, shit, if anyone sees me, I'll stop existing. And like, then just like having to hold myself in existence, and if I let go, I stop existing.
Damn. How long ago was that?
Several years.
Yeah. Yeah, I've never had like as philosophical a dream as that. It's like
That's the
my
thing, though,
existence
because
depends on someone else.
it's all there. That's what I'm finding. The more I write down my dreams, all of the philosophical, all the reflective stuff, it's there under the surface, and it just takes drawing it out to recognize it.
Yeah, that makes sense. Dreams, yes or no?
I'd do it.
4 out of 5.
Yeah.
Do you want to read one more of your dreams to take us out?
Oh boy, do I. Last night I dreamed I was the executor or caretaker of an enclosed space, which was a hallway with rooms connected to a small grocery store. People lived in the rooms, and it was my responsibility to look after them and make sure that they had everything they wanted. I'd inherited the post from my father, who stressed to me the importance of staying at my post. And it seems that there's no other option, because all this universe consists of is just the one hallway with its guests and the grocery store. I know it like the back of my hand, as this has been my whole life. There is no corner of this place that is not achingly familiar to me, and that is as it should be. Except there are the doors that are forbidden to me. They should be locked, but they are not all of them. My father has warned me against opening those doors. I have a sense that I should have the courage to go outward and explore what's new. After all, I know this place so well. What more is there for me here? In truth, this should be enough for me. But it's not. With a sense of horror, I reach toward the doorknob of the boiler room next to the supply closet. This space is not for me. But the doorknob twists, and it opens into a vacuous space, a looming darkness that pushes outward, threatening me. I close the door. Returning to the grocery store, I cast about for something to buy. I should eat something to calm my nerves, though I don't feel hungry. Come to think of it, I never feel hungry in this space. Though the shelves seem well stocked from a distance, my expert eye discerns that in reality there are very few food items left. This is troubling, as this space is never supposed to run out of supplies. I select a box of Tic Tacs, which should be enough sustenance for me. I nod to the cashier with a self-important bustle that does not seem to impress her, though she respects me. A young woman, she is pale and a little dumpy, with blonde hair dyed pink and a kind face. I conclude the transaction and, with new resolve, return to the forbidden door. This one sits in the center of one wall to the grocery store where an exit might normally be, seemingly invisible to the customers perusing the wares around me. I approach the doubled doors and peer out into the space beyond, what looks like it might be a courtyard, brightly lit as if by daylight, but remarkably plain and empty. I peek around to the right, where something luminescent is happening just beyond my sight. But now, looking straight across to the opposite wall, I see my sister standing in a glass box. She makes beckoning gestures as she stares straight at me, large, dance-like flowing movements that are entirely unlike her, alluring. Heather would never move that way. This is not her, it's a farce. The place trying to lure me out to abandon my sanity and become lost in its halls forever. With a shudder, I pull myself away. But the nagging curiosity does not leave me. Almost against my will, I try another door, this one opposite the boiler room in a small enclave. Industrial and uniform, just like the other doors in the hallway. It opens with a reverberating click. In this door, I see another hallway mirrored back at me, parallel to my own. It is dimly lit as if with moonlight, and has the air of an elementary school corridor. I peek my head through the threshold, and to my right I see another doorway on the same side of the hall as me. From its frame emanates a ghostly luminescence, a beautiful and strange radiance that pours from the open doorway. I yearn to see what is in there, leaning my body out into the hallway as I hang onto the doorframe. Something magical is happening just beyond my sight. If I see it, all will be revealed to me, and I will have everything I've ever dreamed of and more. Staring with mounting horror and fascination, I am indelibly aware that this hallway beyond the door is another universe, parallel and separate from my own, governed by its own rules and impulses. What's more, it's most certainly connected to other universes, which are connected to others in turn, an unending and dizzying array of realities leading further and further from my own understanding of truth. It would be so easy to become lost in this madness, to forget my sanity and myself. It is almost unthinkable. With a start, I struggle to pull myself back through the threshold. As I'd been leaning to get a better look at the light, the space had been pulling me into itself, an inexorable drive like gravity or surface tension. My terror lends me strength, and I am able to overcome the force, remaining on my feet in my own reality. I know that if I step through, I will not be able to return. However, my terror also wakes me up so that I am aware I had been dreaming. In the same moment, I realize there is nothing to fear, and that I want to explore those alternate universes to see what was behind the luminescent door. I will myself back to sleep, and to my surprise, I'm able to return to the door where I had been in the dream. But by now, the magic is fading, and while I remember going through the door and seeing the light, I do not remember much more.